I am very glad to see that for once the white man was not the villain. It was the Spaniards, because there have been other racial groups in history that have committed atrocities other than white people. So I'm so glad to see the Spaniards were in this villainous role.
I got nothing.
No comment on that one, guys?
Nope. Go Spaniards.
What is going on, comic book movie fans? My name is Jonathan. This is Comic Book Cinema, and today we're going to discuss What If Season 2. This episode is going to be a little bit different, obviously. I'm actually joined in person by some of the amazing personalities that have been on my show before in the past. We're all together today in real life, guys.
Wow.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
Yay.
You're a lot taller than we thought.
You are. You're huge.
Yeah. They said that I look a little bit shorter on camera, so they were kind of shocked that I'm actually not 5'10". Today we're going to talk about What If. We need to start off with the Nova Corps episode. What did you guys think about that Nova Corps episode?
Thumbs down. It was so dark and boring.
It was definitely dark, and it was definitely not the most entertaining episode.
No. I think even as a whole, it seems as if Marvel, for What If, they got their least entertaining characters. And we're like, let's do What If episodes on them. It makes me wonder if they got the voice actors of the people that they get the voice actors of, and they crafted shows around them. Because you don't see a Captain America-centric episode. You don't see, like, Chris Hemsworth coming in and we get this cool Thor episode. We get Kahori and Hela and Nebula.
I'm glad you brought up Kahori. What did you guys think about Kahori?
So is this the big unveil or the unveil of her? This is the show. This is the one they put her in. This is their selling point. We're going to use What If Season 2 to sell our new Marvel strong character. Well, they nailed me.
I think, and I think we all can agree that the one thing I just could not get out of my head the entire time we were watching this show is this season of What If had Victoria Alonso's fingerprints all over it.
This is the first female-directed film, and it's our first female superhero. It's funny that people call it the X-Men. There's a lot of female superheroes in that X-Men group, so I think it's outdated.
It felt 1,000% like the kind of things that when she talks about the direction of what she sees the MCU being moving forward, when she talks about it publicly, this is exactly what she's talking about. Everything from the cultural appropriation to the things that she thinks is important that she needs to push. Instead of trying to find a good story, it felt like she tried to find different things that she needed to be introducing into the MCU. It did not feel natural to me. None of it felt natural to me.
Kahori didn't feel natural?
All of it didn't feel natural. I mean, I think of the 9 episodes, I think that like 6 or 7 of them were all focused on women protagonists. And I think and look, they're not doing anything to fight those MCU allegations, man. They're not doing anything to fight those at all. When we're talking about Kahori, for example, basically what the title of that episode should have been is What If Quicksilver, Captain Marvel, and Warpath all had a baby? That's basically what it was.
Warpath is not in the MCU.
It was such an unnecessary character. Yeah. It was such an unnecessary character, and I just felt like that's how it was with the entire thing. Every single one of these characters, it was just so unnecessary. I didn't need 3 episodes of Captain Carter.
I will agree with that.
It was, and the first time that the 4 of us were together, we were talking about What If.
Yeah.
You guys remember that? Yes. And I think at that point, we all were very optimistic about where it could go. Yeah. You know what I mean? But now, 2 seasons in, I think we all can look back and say they're kind of using it wrong. That's the way I feel.
It's kind of like they're just fitting this in with the rest of their formula on how they do anything these days. It's just like, man, I wasn't hoping to get the most stereotypical thing that I think Disney would deliver, but boy, did they sure do it. It's like, is this just a whole Captain Carter show? That's another thing, you know. The What If comics, those focused on different stories. Each comic was set in its own thing. These all, I mean, they have a lot of the same characters. I get their different storylines, but there are a lot of the same characters coming over and spilling over into the different episodes. And it's like, all right, we get it. Marvel, you guys are really into Captain Carter. That's cool. And then we get like the likes of Annette Bening showing up. Remember what she was in? Anyone?
Well, yeah.
And Jude Law's back. Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, wow. They picked some winners to really sell this show. Oh, man.
I was kind of impressed that they got some of the people to come back that they did to play the voice roles.
Yeah. How'd they get them?
That's a good question. Sticking with the Nebula episode, yeah, I think it was very mediocre. I mean, the twist, the twist wasn't very satisfying at the end. Nebula was set up and all that good stuff with Jan Rog. It's kind of predictable. Interesting hodgepodge of characters that team up at the end of the Nebula episode. You know, you had Howard the Duck, you had Nebula, and you
Korg.
had Groot and Korg. Of
So
course.
exciting, Korg came back.
Yeah, so that's something that's been brought up on the CBC in the past, that Korg is overused.
A little bit,
overutilized.
you think?
Absolutely.
And yeah, like you guys said, I do think that there was a lot, for lack of a better term, there was a lot of MCU representation here. And some of it might have been crammed in unnecessarily.
Well, let's look at the whole premise. What if Nebula joined the Nova Corps?
Yeah.
Now, raise your hand if you really care about that story in the first place. You probably don't. But if it was, what if Thor joined the Nova Corps? Okay, I'd be interested in something like that. Pretty much what if anybody but Nebula joined? She's just not a character that I care about.
Yeah.
And they replayed the whole got Yondu's fin. Like, we've seen that. We already saw that in the real life thing with Kraglin.
Yeah.
I don't still need to see it again. So I thought it was a retread, basically.
It's not because she's a woman, but because
Absolutely.
of the
No.
character. It's a very bland character. And I'll agree with you on that. Guys, I actually enjoyed the Peter Quill episode.
Okay.
I thought it was really cool to see the 80s Avengers assemble.
I did too.
You know, that was actually something that was kind of fun and interesting and different overall.
I thought that one was okay. You know, it was more tolerable than I think a lot of them in that season. It was still kind of out there. There were some things that still maybe just didn't line up with me with what Peter's capabilities would have been at that time. I don't know. There's just a lot that really didn't make a lot of sense. It was an interesting story, at least. I don't.
Kurt Russell came back.
Yeah.
Of course he did.
He's Disney through and through, right?
Yeah, I think to you guys' point, that was tolerable. It feels like it's just homework anymore to watch all this stuff. John Coughlin mentioned that back during one of the Secret Invasion episodes, and it really stood out to me because he does have a point there. It's like, I want to be itching. I want to be looking forward to getting up early in the morning and being mad I can't watch it because I got to get to work and have to wait till after work. That's the type of feeling I want from any of this stuff, and it's just not been there the past year or two.
Sure.
Do you think that because we've gotten so many mediocre projects as of late, that our anticipation and enthusiasm towards the MCU as a whole in general is very, very low?
Oh yeah, I think it definitely taints your overarching view of it. I mean, I've talked to all of you guys coming into these shows, and not one person was really excited about anything because we've had so many hit after hit after hit that's just been not hit like exciting hit, but like a hit to the jugular over and over again with the Marvel stuff, and that we're all just like, come on, Deadpool 3. Come on, Deadpool 3. We're just like biding our time for Deadpool 3 and X-Men 97, and everything else is like, oh, Echo and Agatha? Who cares?
I feel like Charlie Brown with the football over and over and over again. Lucy just keeps pulling that football out, but I still keep running to kick it, just hoping no, not this time.
Yeah.
This time they're gonna actually do something and surprise me, and they don't.
It's discouraging, and this is one of the most optimistic people you'll meet. Especially when it comes to the MCU, because I really love the MCU. I love Marvel as a whole. And I think that, we had a spell there from probably 2008, one could say, all the way till 2018. I mean, that's 10 years of almost flawless performances at the box office and as far as critical reception, with a few exceptions in there. Iron Man 3 wasn't beloved. Thor: The Dark World wasn't beloved. So we did have some in there in the early phases. You know, Captain Marvel was also sprinkled in there too, right before Endgame, which is not a horrible film by any means, but I'm starting to kind of get off topic a bit. What did you guys think about the Happy Hogan Saves Christmas episode? Did you think that there was any fun to be had there?
The only thing that was really good about it was all of the Die Hard references. That was pretty much it. The Die Hard references were great, and the Hans Gruber moment at the very end, that was really cool.
That's just cheap tactics for him, though.
Anything with Kat Dennings in it, I'm just kind of out from here. Okay.
But I think that Justin Hammer is the most underrated
Absolutely.
MCU villain of all time.
Say it again for the people in the back. He's so good.
Yes.
He's so good. And I think this episode was meant as a palate cleanser because it's so different. But I didn't need my palate cleansed. I was still waiting for something good. Like, that's not where I would have put that in the order. Like, I want to see some good stuff. And by the third episode, you're already giving me this campy Purple Hulk episode. Like, no, Kat Dennings and Justin Hammer in the same. They don't go together. Maybe if he killed her, but
I don't hate Kat Dennings as much as you guys, but she did become very overbearing. I think it was in Dark World where she just really became overbearing. Her recent appearances in some of the early What If stuff, and also when she popped up in
WandaVision was okay because it actually fit. And this was all throughout the What If series. This wasn't just that episode, but all of the quick one-line campy humor where everybody's trying to be either Peter Quill or Robert Downey Jr. It doesn't fit a lot of those characters. Right. When we had this buddy cop story, which we're going to get to, between Captain Carter and Black Widow, and they had moments like that where they were trying to do that quick one-line comedy. It just doesn't land with those characters. It just doesn't. They need to just kind of move away from that, and adding someone like Kat Dennings to a project, that's just all it's going to be.
You know what's interesting? The episode where Iron Man goes to the Grandmaster's Arena to have the drag race. That episode and some of these other episodes, the first watch through that I had, I really didn't like them that much. Mm-hmm. Now, the Nebula episode stayed the same. I still hated it. But when I went back and watched it by myself without possible negative opinions from my wife, even possible negative opinions from my 3-year-old, I found myself enjoying this episode a little more. I mean, I thought it was a little bit of fun to be had here. Jeff Goldblum is a national treasure. I don't care what anybody says. There was some fun for me, at least, in this episode.
The whole angle between Gamora and Tony Stark, that was often played into the comics and stuff. So I guess for me, that was a cool element they might have took within that and displayed in the show, although it being very different and everything. But no, just I just couldn't get into any of these. I couldn't. I tried.
Really? That bad?
I'm not trying to nitpick it. It's just not nothing. It's just not characters I care about. Every single What If's supposed to be its own unique storyline and everything. I guess these are. They want to say that, even though they hired the same people to be in them all. But that's kind of where I'm at.
I love Jeff Goldblum, but I'm good never seeing the Grandmaster again. And I think that's kind of the problem. Is like I think they want to try to get as many of these actors back as they can to do this, and maybe see if they can catch lightning in a bottle. Maybe people will be excited about this story, and they won't know until they release something like this. But I just feel like I don't need to see the Grandmaster in anything else. That's just it served its purpose.
I think it was an interesting angle to take. Iron Man is almost coming back to Earth, and then it closes. What does happen? So that is like the premise of that. What if Tony didn't make it back? Is interesting to me. I don't see how he would end up with the Grandmaster. I don't think that would happen. But that one, along with the Peter Quill episode, was also very much a what if that I'm looking for, whether it was executed well or not. But yeah, what if Peter Quill end up going to Ego like he was supposed to? This is what would happen. Yeah. What if Iron Man didn't make it out of the portal or whatever? Okay, that makes sense. Nebula joining the Nova Corps and Happy Saving Christmas don't really... Do you see how they're so different?
Yeah.
And that really would be a good question to ask. The execution is where it was a little flawed. Because I did like Gamora and Iron Man. I like that stuff. But then we had Valkyrie come in and just kind of ruin it. So, I just can't stand her.
Jared and I were talking about this back and forth with the first What If season. Is you can tell the episodes that take their inspiration from the comics and the ones that don't. The ones that do are the ones that have that one thing. If you change this one thing, then this whole cataclysm of stuff changes. You just don't really see that. What if the one thing is Nebula joining the Nova Corps? Well, what led to that? What was the one thing that changed? There was not one thing that changed. It's just a different story. And that's not really what If is that the comic book fans are familiar with.
Speaking of least favorite episodes, this was definitely my least favorite, the Black Widow episode, where basically they pair Black Widow with Peggy Carter, which, in my opinion, like you guys said, I think you guys said this earlier, I think she's way too overused in this whole series. We definitely got enough of Peggy Carter in season 1 of What If. Maybe that's one of those actresses that is really on board with Disney Plus and she's really willing to come back and voice the role. So maybe that's why they're putting more emphasis on her. Yeah, I feel like we saw enough already. So especially bringing her back in 3 or maybe even 4 episodes in this season was just a little too much. And this Black Widow episode was so just draggy and boring and just bleh. Like there was nothing really like fun and exciting about it to me.
Yeah, I feel like Captain Carter is something they're really trying to push. Okay, and I don't get it either. I mean, the first season, it was probably the one episode that I think people saw kind of a little easier transition to the MCU. And then they introduced her in the MCU in Multiverse of Madness. And now we've got 3 episodes over here in What If. And I know Darren just mentioned that if you want that shield, you can own it at Target for $74.99.
$74.99. They're full in stock.
They're really pushing Captain Carter, just hoping people are going to love it. And it's not landing. I can't see anybody really getting excited about that.
Go down the street in any town in America and be like, to any little kid, and well, ask their parents first, obviously, and be like, hey, do you know who Captain America is? And they'll be like, probably a fair amount will be like, yeah. Hey, do you know who Captain Carter is? Crickets.
That's a good point.
Because we need to expose the children to more Captain Carter. And that's why we have all these episodes now. Yeah. No, I think Captain Carter is what Deadpool used to be. Deadpool in little bits was fine. Totally fine.
Yeah.
Now Deadpool has saturated everything. He has 30,000 of his own issues. He's in every book, and they try and make him serious because that's who they saw a little bit of popularity from. And season 1 of What If, Captain Carter was probably the standout character, her and Doctor Strange, and the zombies. Those were probably the 3 that people were like, okay, this is interesting take. Well, let's shove it down their throat in season 2, and let's put it in the movies, and let's give her, like... No, just give me a little bit. I don't always need a ton. Just seeing her in little snippets is fine. Just a little bit. And then I can do my own what-ifs about Captain Carter. If you tell me everything, I got too much.
It feels like this is some kind of back pay to Atwell for the Agent Carter series just being so terrible. They promised her this big role, they promised her this big series, they promised her all this stuff, and it didn't come to fruition. And so now here we are, we've got What If, we're going to introduce Captain Carter, that's going to be your new payday, and it just doesn't it does not seem to me like there's really any other explanation for why they would be pushing this character this hard. It doesn't make any sense.
Going back to the Kahori episode, I'll say this, because you guys did have a lot of negativity, which is understandable when it comes to Kahori.
We're actually within punching distance this time, Jonathan. Okay?
So look, with the whole Kahori character, I think that the character is different. I will say that if I'm trying to be positive.
Okay.
The episode was not a bad episode. My wife actually loved that episode. That was probably her favorite episode of the whole bunch. If you want to bring in diversity into the MCU, this is the way you do it. You introduce a new character or take someone from the comics.
There we go.
Okay, all right, but listen. Right. Let me finish my point here. So
me and Jared are about to explode, so hurry up with your point. Hurry up.
I didn't love the Kahori character. And also it's not a character that I see just standing beside Iron Man and Captain America and Thor at the end of the day. Like, it's just a character that doesn't quite fit in. Maybe they can modernize the character a little bit more, but it's also very interesting because we just got through introducing our first, Native American superhero with Echo. So what, I just, there's a lot of confusion, I think, on my end. There's a lot of positives and negatives about the character, in my opinion. I think that if you're going to introduce more diversity in the MCU, this is how you do it. Either creating your own original characters or taking some from the comics. The episode was fun enough, but the character to me doesn't make sense in the MCU. So there's a lot of, I'm kind of 50-50, honestly, on Kahori.
You said it, and Jared called you on it right away. Probably the biggest thing that drives comic book fans crazy about
source material.
when these universes get big is the fact that we got people that are trying to push a certain diversity, equity, and inclusion agenda, and that's fine. The one thing that drives us insane is there is no better platform and there is no better medium that is more diverse than the original Marvel Universe. Okay? We've got, what, 50, 60 years worth of stories. We've got over 7,000 main characters. There is something for everybody in that universe already. We don't need this diverse original character that you just now introduced. There's somebody out there like that in the original Marvel Universe.
Echo.
We don't need you to introduce a brand new character for us like this. And it felt to me like they really were just trying to push something on the audience just to kind of see what the response to it would be. But it totally didn't land. That was probably my least favorite episode of the entire season.
Yeah, I thought the story was fine. The animation was good. I loved her effects. But like you said, Danny Moonstar from the New Mutants, Moonstar, would have been perfect for that. Thunderbird, Warpath. There are lots of Native American characters, and there are so many what-ifs that I have in my mind from the MCU already. I don't need a whole new episode. Like, you took that one and Happy Hogan, and basically those were throwaway episodes for me. Just for me. And it has nothing to do with her ethnicity or her being a girl at all. I just gave you examples of men and women that could play those roles. That would be a great segue to X-Men, too. Oh, Danny Moonstar. She's definitely like a C-list X-Men character, but she could do the exact same stuff as Kahori.
The X-Men are coming, Jared.
Are they, though?
They are.
It's not only that they're pushing all that, but that they have to make her like the most powerful character of all time. That's it. Everyone they introduce that they're trying to push an agenda on, it's not just introducing the character with that they're trying to push. It's introducing that character and making them, the last one was 11. We're going to dial this one up to a 12. They just have to make it the most powerful character of all time in order to make people feel like they're really paying attention. And it just isn't working, man. It isn't working. It's making it boring. If everybody is as powerful as Captain Marvel, then what's the point? Yeah.
Gaia. Excuse me.
Yeah, Gaia. Perfect
Excuse
example.
me.
Gaia is a perfect example. That's exactly right.
I'll have to see more of her too eventually.
Unfortunately. I am very glad to see that, for once, the white man was not the villain. It was the Spaniards. Because there have been other racial groups in history that have committed atrocities other than white people. So I'm so glad to see the Spaniards were in this villainous role.
I got nothing.
No comment on that one, guys?
Nope. Go Spaniards.
Hela and the Ten Rings.
Oh, not that one.
Hats off to originality and trying something different.
That's what I said. The same thing, John. The first thing I said when I was going up on a episode of 7 of this season, I was like, I can't wait to see Shang-Chi's dad and mom again. And they got those two great actors.
Tell me more, Darren. Tell me more.
This whole season has been led up to this, and they're capping us off with something good here. Oh, man.
You know what?
It's like the second to last episode of Game of Thrones. They just don't let you down.
Okay, so I'm probably going to get jumped on here, but... okay, so what if Hela found the 10 rings? I thought it was a very cool idea for what if. Kate Blanchett was back to voice the character, Jared's favorite.
Love Hela. I love Hela.
Okay, so I mean...
love Hela.
Yeah,
She was okay in it.
I think seeing Hela's harsh upbringing was cool to see a little bit of backstory for that character.
Yeah.
And seeing why, some of her motivations and why she does some of the things she does.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about this episode?
Terrible. This is Hela, the goddess of death.
They made her in the light.
She turned... Yeah, she's not Gandalf. Why did she
She's
turn...
the goddess of death.
She's now, I'll just team up with Wenwu and I'll get the rings and I will take down Oat.
No one is beyond saving, Jared.
This is true. This is true.
Beyond saving.
Except for Hela.
I mean, her name's the goddess of death.
I was really excited to just see Hela back because I feel like her going out in Ragnarok was wasted in that she could be someone that we could see in future movies. So when I saw that she was going to be in the What If, great. I get to see her. And Kate Blanchett's coming back? Oh, she's good. Like, it was just very much a letdown for me. I was sad. My heart was sad for this.
So you guys are purists. Like, you want everything to be just like
Jared
the source
took the
material.
words right out of my... That's not a decision that Hela ever would have made. And he took the words right out of my mouth. Good
I really thought she was going to get the rings.
Yeah.
And take down Wenwu.
Yep.
Like that, I'm there for that. Like, she's flirting with Wenwu, and she takes his rings and then kills him, and, like, the Avengers have to come in and fight Hela. Awesome! oh, that is not what happened. Even close. I feel like you loved this one.
I liked it.
And that's okay. That's okay.
I enjoyed it.
And that's okay, Jonathan. You're allowed to.
Like I said, I think that Cate Blanchett is a great actress, obviously. That's the whole thing, though, right? That's the whole concept of what if. What if Hela became a good guy? What if she did learn humility, or what's the word? Mercy in the episode. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a cool, fun episode. And also, it showed us a little bit darker of a Odin in this episode as well.
That's true.
Which was really interesting, given, what his motivations were for casting the crown down in the first place.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden he's just like, forget all, So I thought that was very interesting that all of a sudden there was...
it worked like that?
Yeah.
Did you think it was, if I take it off? I didn't ever think of it in my mind.
I never once thought of it as a similar trinket to the hammer. No, I did not.
Yeah.
But maybe it wasn't supposed to be, and the What If episode was just like, let's just make the crown that
This
way.
works.
But I feel like that was one of the big things that didn't make sense, is that all of a sudden Odin's all dark and evil but he was just talking about, you have to be worthy to, it just doesn't make sense.
So if the episode was what if Hela survived Ragnarok, I would be there for that episode. That's what I would like to see, because then she makes her way to Earth and the Avengers have to get together and take her down. I'm there for that.
Any comments on that episode, Darren? Or not?
I already said all my spiel.
What if Hela got a new outfit?
Yeah, no, to everybody's point, I just don't understand how she can go suddenly to the light side. I get to your point, though, like, what if she went to the light side? So I can kind of be like, well, he's kind of going on the formula. That's a good reason. You got a good logic there on what you liked about it. So, yeah, fair enough. I do think it was certainly better than a lot of the other ones. I'll give it that. That one was a little bit better, I would say. It shouldn't be nice.
Again with the campy humor, and again with a lot of the stuff that just was not of the nature of the character. That's the one thing that I just can't get out of my head with that episode. But
it seems like with so many of these, like bringing back in, I just made fun of it, but Shang-Chi's parents, and then back to like Jude Law's character and Annette Bening and some of the other minor characters we've seen in some of these. Well, they're not supposed to be minor, but nobody cared about them. But it's just like they're just bringing those back, and we're supposed to know everything about them, and then they come in, and as voice actors, they're giving much more in these performances than they did to the actual cinematic ones. So it's quite confusing, at least for me.
There was 2 more episodes. We'll talk about both simultaneously. The Avengers assembling in 1602, and then also the finale where the Captain Carter and Kahori team up to fight Supreme Strange. Just on the 1602.
it was basically Captain Carter Part 3.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
Pretty much, yeah.
Why do you think they chose 1602?
I don't know. That was a very interesting choice, but Hulk smash thee.
Was this supposed to actually come out before? Was this supposed to be like the Thanksgiving special? And they're like, oh, well, it's not that good. We better just put it again.
I'm not going to lie. It took me forever to figure out that one dude was Happy Hogan.
Really?
I was just like, he looks like some Three Musketeers guy with a weird mustache. I had no idea that was Jon Favreau for a minute. And then he turned into the Purple Hulk. And I was like, oh, that was Happy. Okay. It makes more sense now.
That's another one we got to see it all the time now. And I like Jon Favreau. I do. And I respect what he did for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we don't have to see Happy Hogan all the time.
Well,
it's not been too bad, but every Spider-Man movie.
So you guys overall weren't a fan of Purple Hulk?
No. Marvel 1602 is in the comic books. That's a whole series called Marvel 1602, and it's a period piece about all the even the X-Men are in it, Spider-Man, and what they look like in 1602. So that's where I think that came from, and it was just their way of.
Oh, but they still made their own story. They just used it.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely. There was no Cyclops in this episode.
Oh, that's one comic I won't be picking up still.
I'm not a fan of period pieces.
Yeah.
As a whole, pretty much. So this one I knew wasn't going into it. I was already like,
Well, I mean, and that's kind of the point of What If. What If just kind of introduces these hypothetical realities, and sometimes they line up with things and people like them, and sometimes they don't. But it just feels like with what the MCU is doing with What If, it's basically, instead of just doing one hypothetical reality, they're introducing a whole new concept that needs to be introduced into the MCU one way or another, and that's what I'm afraid they're going to try to do with this. Like, at some point, are they going to have some time travel nonsense that takes us to 1602 and we come like... They feel like they have to do that, and I don't think they have to. Just show us this one little 30-minute episode and let us decide whether or not we like it, and if we don't get your feelings hurt. But if Season 1 was any indication, they're going to find a way to try to introduce some of this stuff into the MCU moving forward.
The finale for me was a letdown. I'll say that for sure. For me personally, overall, if we're talking about overall the show, there was some episodes that I really enjoyed, but there was probably more episodes that I did not like versus the ones that I did. So I think that we're kind of on the same ground when it comes to that. But I just like the Hela episode a little more than you guys.
That's okay.
So.
Nah.
You're allowed to be wrong. It's all right. No, if we all thought the same way, this would be a boring episode.
So if you had to take season 1 of What If and rate it by itself, and then season 2 of What If, rate it by itself, and then combine the rating for an overall rating of what you think about What If so far, what would you think? What If? Tim?
So if I had to rate both seasons of What If is what you're asking
Yeah.
me. First season was maybe a 4.5.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. No.
That's really low, Tim.
Yeah. I mean, this one I'd probably give a 4-ish in this neighborhood.
Wow.
So yeah.
So you really didn't like What If?
I didn't like either one. I mean, and this isn't a surprise. You know, I think the last time we were together, the four of us, we were rating the shows that came out at that time, and I think every single one of us put What If as last at that time. I don't think it's a surprise that What If is low on the totem pole for me. Now, look, do I like it better than some of the Disney Plus stuff that's been out recently? Yes, I do. I like it better than She-Hulk, a lot better than She-Hulk. I like it. You know, I think I'll probably say I like it better than Secret Invasion as well. I probably like it better than Moon Knight, probably like it better than Ms. Marvel. I mean, there's a lot of stuff I probably like it better than. That doesn't mean that I'm still going to let it slide on some of the stuff that just, in my mind, they just totally dropped the ball. The concept has potential, but I feel like they're trying to execute it in a way that tries to foist stuff on its audience, and it just didn't feel none of it felt natural to me, because I loved the What If comics growing up. I loved them. They were great, and you know, the one thing I liked about it is each issue was like its own little thing. You know what I mean? I loved that. There was more in my mind in the comic books of each of these comic books kind of using what was already in the Marvel Universe to interact and maybe changing things that were already in the Marvel Universe. This has kind of gone to the goofy realm for me in these What If. They kind of go almost too far in the things that change, if that makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah, to be fair, the comics had a lot more at their disposal. They could literally use anybody without having to worry about voice actors or licensing, things like that. But yeah, I totally get your point. For me, I think if I had to average both together, it would be somewhere around a 5.5 to a 6. The reason being a 6, because I really enjoyed the first season with the exception of the Captain Carter episode and a few others. But the second season was a little bit worse than season 1. But yeah, it's somewhere floating for me around a 5.5 to a 6.
Yeah, I would say season 1 was better than season 2.
Yeah.
In terms of rewatchability is kind of how I grade mine. Am I going to go back and watch the Secret Invasion or She-Hulk or WandaVision? WandaVision I am, and I have rewatched. She-Hulk, I've tried to get it deleted from Disney Plus, but I can't figure out how to get that icon off. So What If, season 1, I have gone back and watched a couple episodes. I don't feel the need to really watch any of these over again. Maybe one, maybe two of them, possibly ever, but otherwise I saw it, I don't need to go back to it. So I'd say What If season 1 was maybe a 5, and What If season 2 was probably a 2.
I'm right on the same spectrum as you guys. Like, I'll probably go. I don't even want to rewatch either of the seasons, to be honest with you. But if one's better, it's definitely season 1. I'll go maybe 5. I'll go 3.5 on season 2. Should be lower. It could be lower. It could float around. The whole point is it's on the bottom, lower side of the scale for both of them.
Very, very bottom.
Yeah, all of us.
All right, guys. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining me in person for this episode. Viewers at home, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on social media. Check these guys out on social media. And until next time, have a good one.